Sometimes when organizations decide that they want an injection of cash, they will decide to go out to the marketplace and offer bonds for sale. Now, bonds are similar to a notes payable. They're like your car loan or your home loan. And when they offer these bonds for sale, they may offer it to the investment community. And then you as an investor kind of become like Bank of America. You become the lender to the company issuing the bonds. And in this case, I'm going to use the example of GE, or General Electric. So if General Electric decides to issue bonds and you purchase some of those bonds, you become GE's lender. Now, when General Electric decides to do this, let's say it's November of 2014, and they decide, yep, I'm going to go out to the marketplace and I'm going to issue some bonds to the market. The first thing that they do is they go out and they price these bonds. They ask themselves the question, hey, if an investor was going to put money into a marketplace, into an instrument with similar risk as our bonds, what kind of rate of return could they expect to get? And maybe after doing that research, they discover that the answer is 10%. So in that situation, they'll go ahead and they'll print up bonds. That's a little picture of a bond. And let's say they offer $1 million in bonds at 10% annually, paid semi-annually. So in other words, interest will be paid at 5% semi-annually, because if you pay interest at 5% semi-annually, that's equivalent to 10% annually. The final thing that these bonds instruments will have on it is a maturity date, and in this case, we're going to use 12/31/2030. So on 12/31/2030, GE has to pay these bonds off in full. The challenge that GE has is that if they decide to issue the bonds in 2014, it may take them a while to actually be able to go out to the market with the bonds. They've got to go through the legal process. They have to go through the administrative process, even just getting these bonds printed. So it may be April of 2015 before the bonds are even ready to go out to market. Now, the challenge here is that by April 2015, the market has most likely fluctuated, and maybe the market for a similar instrument with similar risk is 12%. If that's the case, GE has a challenge to overcome. Why would an investor want to purchase their bonds at 10% when that same investor can take their money out to the marketplace and earn a 12% rate of return? The way that this challenge is typically overcome is by offering these bonds at what's known as a discount, or you and I would think about this as offering these bonds at a sale price. Because the problem that GE has is these bonds have already been printed up. See, there's the contract, right? They're printed up. So they've got to pay $1 million at 10% annually and make those payments at 5% semi-annually. They can't change that. The contract has been printed up. Yet, the market price when these go out for sale is 12%. So they've got to make it attractive to an investor. And to do so, they will sell these bonds at a discount or put them on sale. Now, what they will do in all practicality is they'll take this 12% rate of return and they'll do some mathematical computations using 12% on a $1 million bond paying 10% interest semi-annually, and they'll determine after doing a lot of math that perhaps what they should be selling these bonds for is $980,000. Now, I made that number up, but they'll do the math. To arrive at a more specific number. So what that will mean for the investors is that the investors will pay GE $980,000, and at the maturity date of 12/31/2030, in this case, they will get back $1 million. They'll get back more than they paid. And the reason they'll do this is because that's how GE will make up for the discrepancy or the disparity between what the bond's actually paying 10% annually and what the market rate of interest is at the point of purchase, or 12%. Now, conversely, we can have the opposite situation be true as well. Maybe by the time the bonds finally sell, the market rate of interest has gone down to 8%. If that's the case, investors would be breaking down GE's door to buy an instrument that has a 10% rate of interest when the market's only paying 8%, right? I would certainly much rather get 10% on my money than 8%. So GE would be flooded with offers to buy these bonds, and it wouldn't be good business sense on their behalf to sell 10% bonds at par value, and we'll talk about what par is in just a minute, when the market's only paying 8. So in this case, they'll do the mathematical computations at what a $1 million bond with interest payments semi-annually at 5% semi-annually, what that should be priced at. And perhaps what they'll come up with, and again, I'm making this number up, but they'll go through the math to come up with it, is $1.1 million. And this is what's known as selling a bond at a premium. So what that means is that you or I would give GE $1.1 million, even though at the maturity date, we would only be getting back $1 million. $1 million because that's what's printed on the bond. And we would be willing to give GE, in this example, $100,000 more than what we're getting back, because that's equalizing our rate of return to 8%. Remember, all throughout the time that we hold this bond, we will be getting a 10% rate of return on it, 10% annually, paid semi-annually, or in other words, 5% semi-annually. We'll be getting a 10% return on this when the market at the time of our purchase was only paying 8%. So they'll sell these bonds at a premium to make up the difference. And finally, in some situations, when GE goes out to sell these bonds, the market price of the bonds might be 10%, and that's exactly what's printed on the bond itself, is 10%. So in this situation, the bond will be sold as what's known at what is known as par. In other words, you or I, the investor or the lender, will give GE $1 million, and when the bonds mature on 12/31/2030, we will get back $1 million. And meanwhile, while we hold these bonds, we'll get 5% semi-annual interest payments totaling 10% a year. So when the marketplace has a rate of return that's exactly equal to what's printed on the bond, they're sold at par value, And again, discounts and premiums are used to adjust for market fluctuations between the time that the bond is printed and the decision is made to sell these bonds and the point in time that they're actually sold, to adjust for any market differences between what's printed on the face value of the bond and what's going on in the marketplace at any point in time. To adjust for those differences, an organization will either sell the bond at a discount, which is like putting it on sale, or they'll sell the bond at a premium.